Hello and welcome back to Davos and the Mackies. Shiny start out, yes, very good. And this is also a show which has a number. Also, it is good to talk about all other things too. For this is also money you can give to radio station for listener funded. Thank you.
Wow, that sounded like it had gone through a Google Translate and back to English again.
I know, right? Not easy to do on the fly, I tell you what.
No. I don't know how you do it.
I don't know. I just
you should do our bumper.
I should do many bumpers. I'll bump you good.
I know. You need to start reading audiobooks. That's what it is.
I really shouldn't. There are many things people say one should do, and other things where that's definitely something you should never touch. That's just anyone.
That'd be so much fun.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you read it in the voice that you feel like doing at the time.
From moment to moment.
Imagine reading children's books in this really creepy voice. The telephone voice. The call that you get in the middle of the night, you see. Once upon a time, there was a little girl with a Red Riding Hood. And she walked through the dark forest. Oh, the forest was ever so dark. You see, that's why I shouldn't do audiobooks.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, thank you. No, look, we are talking about the hypothesis. We have been for a little while now.
It's show number 513, by the way.
513, 310, and 500. And this is probably the 12th or the 13th part of this particular expose.
Yeah, we're guessing 13.
We're guessing 13 because,
who knows anymore?
That's just what happens.
Crazy world.
It's a crazy world.
In different alternate universes, we might have already finished or we're still at the first page. Doesn't matter.
I had a slippage experience again.
Yeah, you just got to stop it.
No, not recent. So I have this watch, right? And look, it's just a Casio. It's a G-Shock Casio. It's nothing fancy, but I like it, right? It's my go-to watch.
I'm gonna quickly put that onto Insta where Meki wears wears a Casio.
There you go. Anyway, but I like it because it's I can it's waterproof and etc. So I can go by sports and whatever. And that's what I use it for. Anyway, point is, I always wear it when I go cycling. And then I remember going to my mom's house for I think it was for just before even I think it was New Year's Eve, and I had my watch. I thought, and I took it off. I thought, and then I didn't take it back on. So I thought I left it at my mom's house because I couldn't find my watch now for the last couple of weeks. I was looking anywhere, I couldn't find it.
Oh.
Now I need to say that I put my Christmas lights up just before Christmas, the week before Christmas. Okay, so that was. Virtually a week and a bit before I went to my mom's house for New Year's Eve, right? So we need to know this information. And then yesterday or the day before, I think it was, I took my Christmas lights down because that's what you do when you when you have Christmas lights up, they have to come down.
Mm-hmm.
And the box into which I put my Christmas lights was in on a shelf in my garage. It's just a plastic box, right? And I lifted out the plastic box to put my Christmas lights in, and lo and behold, under the plastic box, which I hadn't touched in 2 weeks, is my watch.
Wow.
Which I was, again, maybe my mind is playing tricks on me, maybe my memory is gone, but I could have sworn up and down that I was wearing my watch while I was cycling after Christmas. And I had worn it also to my mom's house in New Year's Eve, right? But clearly impossible because before Christmas, I must have left my watch under the box, but I know I didn't. So go put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, that's good. That
right?
Yeah. All I'm hearing is Grandpa Simpson. in my oh god, Abe Simpson. So got a funny story about this, Penny. 1937, I think it was.
Blessing. Yes, Blessing.
I woke up and made myself some toast. I put the toaster on 3.
Because I'd like it that way. No, the Blessing
used to wear an onion on our belt.
It was the fashion at the time. Not a white onion. Kaiser stole them all. It was a brown onion. No, Blessing says it might be a poltergeist. It's possible because there are some activities in my house, which may or may not be poltergeist related.
Charge your shot glasses.
It's a drinking game. No, but we have certainly experienced some things, Blessing. So it's a possibility.
Yeah.
But my mom, looked at her house. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So that's the story I have for you. But I don't think it was a recent slippage. So I don't know. No, I'm talking about the ranch. Having said that, the third season should be coming out soon. So
good.
If you want to watch
everyone, we had at least one.
So I just wanted to get off my chest, but to get back into the but what
the seriousness of Meki's slips is it's really hurting.
Yeah, it's not good. It's hurting Dave a lot.
Yeah, it hurts me for some reason. I want to slap him with the glove.
Yeah, so you should, because I will get into the detail. We'll probably do it once we finish this cycle. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to also highlight the broken nature of the universe or multiverse we seem to be inhabiting. And that's really one of the I guess the pillars upon which the hypothesis is founded, that in fact we are living in a broken multiverse.
It's like someone's shaken the box that Einstein says contains all time.
Yeah, that's right.
Stop it. Who's doing that? And if I find you...
Oh, there's hell to pay. There's hell to pay, I tell you what.
I'll acknowledge you in my presence. Thank you very much. And appreciate you for existing.
I read a book once, and one of by Melchior, I think, Paul Melchior. It's called The Broken Walls of the Universe. Very interesting around dimensional travel. Anyway, we talked a lot about the pineal gland last time. In fact, the calcification thereof, what you can do to detoxify it, if you can, right? Which is good. We should. And also how important it has been throughout history and in many different cultural settings. How it's always been seen as a very special organ within the body. In fact, it receives the second highest blood flow, second only to your kidneys, in the body. Mm-hmm. And it's also the first thing to calcify in your body, which is also rather interesting. Yeah. So it's a very it's unique. It is a singularly unique organ in your body. There's only one of it. It seems to produce serotonin, also melatonin. Responsible for your sleep, etc., and on it goes. So it's a very important little organ.
Couldn't survive without it.
And cultures, the past, seem to have, I don't know, I guess realized it would be the word, because it's everywhere.
Well, they appreciated it and understood it for what it is.
Yeah, the pine cone imagery. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a pine cone, sometimes it's a lotus flower, sometimes it's it's a stylized headdress of an Eastern person, which still has a pine cone shape, but it's usually flanked by two identical animals, be it elephants or peacocks. Snakes. Or whatever. Mm-hmm. Snakes, yes, exactly, like in the staff of the whatchamacallit, right? So yeah, you're right. So okay. So I have detoxed my pineal gland, Maggie. Wonderful, and understand how important it is. Awesome. How do I activate it? That's a very good question.
I'm glad you asked.
I am also glad I asked. Why don't you take us?
We're gonna read it. We're gonna read a question from a viewer.
That's right. Any questions you have? Go on. No, but why don't you take us through some of this, Dave? Because it is important. I mean, so you detoxify it, blah blah. You know how important it is, but how do you activate it?
Yeah, good question. Opening the third eye, powerful ancient practices for activating the pineal gland and expanding consciousness. This is by Mantak Chai and Joyce Tom. Balancing and activating the pineal gland is a foundational practice for expanding consciousness and restoring the health and vibrancy of the physical body. The fundamentals of pineal gland activation: balancing the endocrine system. In both craniosacral work and Taoist practice, the endocrine system is a critical gateway joining physical function with spiritual experience. The endocrine system includes the following glands: the pituitary, pineal, hypothalamus, thyroid, parathyroid, adrenals, pancreas, and ovaries or testes. These glands use hormones, rather than the electrical impulses used by the nervous system, to affect changes in our body, emotions, cognition, and energy. Hormones are chemical messengers that circulate through the body via the bloodstream and coordinate critical body functions. They increase or reduce nerve impulses and can also act as neurotransmitters.
The hypothalamus pituitary relationship, and this has been slightly abridged. Although the pituitary gland has often been referred to as the master gland because it appears to control the endocrine system, the hypothalamus plays a more crucial role in this system than previously thought. The hypothalamus receives and integrates information from the rest of the body and then secretes the neurohormones that release or inhibit key pituitary hormones. By signaling and directing the pituitary, the hypothalamus plays a critical part in the endocrine system and is important in a larger sense for pineal gland activation. Dave?
Functions of the pituitary in physical health and spiritual awakening. The anterior lobe of the pituitary secretes 7 key hormones that are related to lactation, the release of testosterone, and the production of sex, thyroid, and human growth hormones. Can you just prod it? The posterior lobe does not produce hormones. So it's the anterior that does, the posterior, the one on the rear side, does not. But it stores and releases 2 important ones made in the brain, oxytocin and vasopressin. Oxytocin fosters maternal instincts, bonding between mates, trust, and sexual pleasure. Vasopressin influences circadian rhythms and reabsorption of water into the bloodstream and also stimulates paternal, protective, and caring instincts. The pituitary relates to our growth, and its health is also important for pineal gland activation. When it begins to vibrate in synchrony with the pineal gland, we are inspired to grow and renew ourselves both physically and spiritually.
Interesting. The pineal gland. The pineal gland, as we've learned, of course, by now, is located in the center of the brain, behind and above the pituitary gland. Because the pineal is bathed in highly charged cerebrospinal fluid, CSF, and has more blood flow per cubic volume than any other organ, which is true because the kidneys are much larger, it may well be the gland with the highest concentration of energy in the body. In addition to its high concentrations of CSF, which is the cerebrospinal fluid, and blood, the pineal gland is also the dominant source of the body's melatonin. Dave?
Melatonin and the pineal gland. Melatonin is significant for its effects on our mood, immune function, circadian rhythms, and the quality and quantity of our sleep. Melatonin is known as an anti-aging and anti-stress agent because it both suppresses cortisol and is a powerful antioxidant. The production of melatonin by the pineal gland is activated by darkness and inhibited by light. Once released, melatonin circulates through the brain via the CSF and enters nearby blood vessels for distribution to the rest of the body. When melatonin levels are disrupted, people can experience mood swings, depression, and seasonal disorders. And I'm going to also say sleep disorders.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, if you have disrupted sleep, right, then chances are that you could go into depression, mood swings, etc., more easily than others.
Hey, Becky, just real quick. My daughter asked me, how many days can you stay awake?
Good question.
Yeah, good question. I said, really good question. And she said, then, is it used as when you're trying to get answers out of someone? I said, well, you should ask the people who run Guantanamo Bay, because I think they use it as a tool to get people to confess, because, there's only a certain amount of, between 48 and 96 hours that you can be awake without dying.
Yeah, it's a very limited time. Your motor functions and higher brain functions deteriorate rapidly the longer your sleep deprivation lasts. There have been experiments done, and it is one of the major tools, or the main tools in information extraction, I want to call it.
That's probably the best way of putting it.
It is by keeping people awake or disrupting the circadian rhythms, keeping them in a dark room or an always lit room. Either way, so your circadian rhythms are completely shot, and you don't know what time of day it is. So it's a good question, and the answer is not as long as you think you might.
That's right. So pertinent to the melatonin and the pineal gland, people have discovered other uses for it.
Yeah, completely, absolutely. Now, serotonin and other consciousness-enhancing neurochemicals secreted by the pineal gland. In addition to producing melatonin, a healthy activated pineal gland also metabolizes other neurochemicals that coordinate physical and emotional processes on a cellular level, right? These neurochemicals, including pinealine and DMT, are said to connect the mind and body. I'm going to dwell on that for a second in a moment. The pineal plays a key role in the production of these neurochemicals because it has one of the highest concentrations of serotonin in the body. And serotonin is a critical precursor to them. So, okay. Neurochemicals, right? Pinealine and DMT connect the mind and the body, it is thought, right? Now, it is really important to understand this here. So the mind, the energy, the spiritual you, whatever, or the real you, let's call it the real you, needs to be connected to this body, which is your prison somehow, right? And these neurochemicals, I guess, fashion that connection. But I believe, Dave, that connection goes both ways. So yes, it binds your mind to your body, but it would also allow your mind then to travel the other way, in my opinion.
Yes.
And that's why we need the pineal gland and we need sleep, because I believe, again, during your sleep period, when you have dreams, right, when your mind is allowed to roam free, you're using that tunnel, let's call it. It's an inelegant way of describing it, but this pineal tunnel is then opening to, I guess, the true reality where your mind can roam free. And I know, when I was younger, my dreams were a lot more chaotic and confusing than they are now. And I believe your ability to enter that world decreases the more your gland calcifies. That's my opinion only. I've got no proof for that whatsoever, but anecdotally, I would say that is probably true. Some people that can keep their pineal glands from calcifying probably dream a lot more chaotically. I mean, it makes perfect sense while you're dreaming it, right? That's my point.
Yeah.
But when you wake up, then you think, oh, what a crazy thing, which doesn't make any sense at all. But while you're dreaming it, no, everything was perfectly all right.
Yeah, because you knew the house that you're in wasn't your current house, but it was your house.
Bingo.
I know. You have a total understanding, a full grip of what you're experiencing, and I think that's where the message is. I think that's how we discover the right from wrong, the true and false. Because if you were just witnessing it as images without a knowing, then you'd go, "That's not my house. What on earth? Mm-hmm. Who is that person?" But in your dream, you knew who the person was.
100%.
You had a connection with the things around you. It's kind of, like if you were to visit the home you grew up in, you knew, you know it's not your current house, but you know every room, you have all the memories, there's a connection with it. And it's kind of like that. But it's a deeper understanding. It's like you're connecting to the universe, rather. And I think Meki and I talk about this and have 100 shows talking about it. But it is the place of dreams is the true reality. Yeah,
correct. And then we're not alone in this opinion.
No.
I mean, I don't want to go into the detail here, but many, if not all, ancient cultures, and the oldest world religions and philosophical systems believe the very same thing, right? But tell us about the spiritual aspects, my dear friend, of the pineal gland.
Sure. Given its important role, it is not surprising that a healthy, activated pineal gland has been connected with spirituality for millennia. Its pinecone shape is found in art and artifacts of many ancient traditions, where it is associated with enlightenment and immortality. Very important that you remember that word. Ancient Egyptians revered this tiny gland and even preserved it separately during the process of mummification. With its spines and spirals, the pine cone illustrates a perfect Fibonacci sequence, symbolizing growth and the unifying force that underlies creation, all embodied in an activated pineal gland.
Who would have thunk it? I mean, it is tiny, but it is such a, again, small. Good things come in small packages.
Depicted visually.
Yeah. Everywhere.
Remember Egyptians also had brain surgery and open heart surgery?
Yes.
Depicted?
Yes,
They knew
correct.
what they were doing.
Oh, they did trepanning and all that. That was quite that was the thing they used to do. It's it's really look. I believe once again that a lot of the knowledge came down through other and older civilizations that, of course, we have lost now mostly. But some of the elder cultures that preceded us by several thousand years, they retained some of that knowledge through who knows whatever means. However, now we're coming to the pineal gland, and the key. And this is really what everybody's been waiting for. Opening the third eye. How do we do that? Now, before I say this, and that's all I can't say a lot about it, but I was lucky enough some years ago now to be at a ceremony where it was formally opened. My third eye, or at least that was the intent. So oddly enough, that sort of, I guess in many ways that's when the slippages started to become more frequent, which is really strange. And my night my sleep paralysis sort of abated as well. Wasn't as prominent anymore. So anyway, that's just something I thought I'd share with you. That's all I can say. However, spiritual traditions associate and activate pineal gland with the opening of the third eye of inner vision, insight, and wisdom. So it's see, the nature of this world is such that to escape it, one must go inside. You can fly for 1 billion light years and not escape this multiverse. In fact, you can go across many dimensions within this multiverse and still not escape it, because we're still on the same, I guess, existential plateau. We're not moving up higher. We're just moving to the side. The multiverse, if you get what I'm saying there. So we're really living in a 5-dimensional multiverse construct, and we need to go to the 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever higher dimensional spaces there might be to get out of it. Okay, the escape lies within. One of the tenets of Zen. Anyway, Buddhism. Scientific research is beginning to validate the relationship between the pineal gland and vision or visions. Comparative research into the anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry of the pineal gland and the retina across a wide range of animal species suggests that the two organs share evolutionary and developmental paths. Modern living fossils, such as the tuatara, have a photosensitive pineal eye with a rudimentary lens, cornea, and retina. Other species, such as frogs and lampreys, also have pineal eyes. In humans, pineal cells resemble retinal cells in composition and in the presence of proteins not found elsewhere in the body. Pineal light sensitivity is common across diverse species, and in humans is connected with the opening of the third eye. Now, Dave, before we learn the other things,
anymore.
Melatonin and the spirit molecules. But before we go there, I don't know if you're familiar with a lot of Hindu art or Buddhist art. There's always a depiction of the third eye in the middle of the foot, like literally where the pineal gland would be if it was on your forehead, right?
That's right.
And clearly, right, and now we're learning that the pineal gland, it was in fact potentially an actual eye at some point, right? A third eye that we had at some point.
That's correct.
And is it so far-fetched to think that in the maybe not too dim and distant past, I mean, maybe a couple 100,000 years, maybe longer, we in fact had an actual eye there, but this eye was a very special eye, which allowed and this was a very different world we're talking about now as well, right? With a slightly higher vibrational frequency, in my opinion, where this I was actively used to travel to higher dimensional plateaus.
Oh, take me back in time.
Right?
Mickey, there was a fish that had a clear cranium.
Yes. Yes.
Just recently discovered as well.
Yes, correct. That's weird, right? If you think about it, that's interesting. But yeah,
just remember what it means. So, in terms of spiritual experience, melatonin quiets the body and mind, allowing access to higher consciousnesses. Both pinealine and DMT secreted by a healthy, activated pineal gland are psychoactive, causing changes in perception, mood, consciousness, cognition, and behavior. Pinealine enables visions and dream states in the conscious mind and has been used by ancient Egyptians and Zoroastrians in their rituals. It assists in DNA replication and is said to resonate with the pulse of life at 8 cycles per second. DMT is produced in the pineal gland during deep meditation and extraordinary conditions of birth, sexual ecstasy, extreme physical stress, and near-death experiences. It also alters our dream and consciousness when it is released into the bloodstream during the rapid eye movement phase of sleep. DMT links the body and spirit because of the relationship to visionary experiences and non-ordinary states of transcendental Transcendentant. There you go. Thank you. Consciousness. Dr. Rick Strassman calls DMT the spirit molecule.
And this is really where you're connected, right? Where you're connecting. See, we for the longest time now in Western society, we've completely dismissed the spirit, Dave, right? It's spirit nonsense. We're flesh robots. We die and the worms eat us.
Schmerit.
No. Spirit, schmerit. And that's one of the biggest mistakes. It's the biggest mistakes that we've ever made as a society, civilization, what do you want to call it, to dismiss or separate or somehow nullify the importance of spiritual matters. Let's call it that. Let's call it spiritual matters rather than just physical bodily matters. There's a very interesting question from the chat room from Stardust Man. In fact, Stardust Man makes a comment. Sometimes when I'm awake, it is a shock to come to the thinking, am I dreaming or am I awake? So clearly, I think we've all had this.
Yes. But
waking up from a very specifically a vivid dream, maybe, where you think, hang on, am I awake? Am I dreaming still, or maybe you're still dreaming it, but you don't realize you're dreaming, or you think you're dreaming, or you think, oh no, this is the real world. I think we've all experienced that, right? Now he's asked, time does not exist, and I agree with that statement. So he wonders, are our dreams our future or our past? Now, Stardust Man, this is just my opinion. Before I go to the pineal gland and vibration here, so the Aborigines talk about the dreaming. Now, this has always been not mistranslated, but misunderstood as a point of time in the past, like a golden time, history. Before it's like a dream time. That is a complete misunderstanding of the term. But what it actually means, the dreaming, is it's every when. So there is no. It doesn't happen at a specific time. It's always there. What the reason we can't get to it, and the Aboriginals will tell you about this, because we're separated from it, especially Western society, by a rift, by an abyss. We can't get to the dream time. We can't, but it's there. It's always there. It is timeless. And so, the future and the past are illusions in that they are not separate. So imagine having a state of consciousness, a state of mind, where you can perceive your entire existence at the same time, right? So time does not flow. You're in it, like you are conscious and aware and experience your life in its entirety. Now, the life that don't confuse it with the life that we have in this particular multiverse right now. In my opinion, again, only my opinion, it is a life completely different from what what we are used to. And that's why I believe it takes babies such a long time to adjust to this reality. So we die and we're reincarnated, but I believe in the state that we're in while we are waiting to be reincarnated, we are probably in our real reality, or a facsimile thereof, because I think if we don't, then I think our spirit, soul, chi, ka, whatever you want to call it, would just wither away and die. So we need some kind of connection. So I think the time between lives, potentially, is when we have a chance to experience that real reality even longer than in our dreams. So if you look at a human child being born, which is really interesting, it takes for this child, and I've experienced this now 3 times myself up close, it takes a long time for that child to become useful in any way. It's completely helpless for the first year, pretty much, right? And then speech comes slow, motion comes slow. If you look at wild animals, let's say, right, they are ready to go as soon as they're born, right? It is as soon as we as you know, as these animals are out there, they can run around. You know, they still, I mean, if they're mammals, they're, you know, suckling, but certainly they are independent, more or less. They can run away from danger, as it were, right? That's probably one of the key key components to your survival. So I think that our dreams are both from the past and the future, but also neither. Because time doesn't exist, and future and past are coexistent with the present. And in fact, the only thing that does exist is the eternal now. Now imagine you lived in an eternal now forever, right? It's hard, a little bit hard to get your brain around it. I'm not sure I'm completely there.
Well, my brain just exploded, so.
Yeah, but premonition and things like the deja vu and things like that, they hint to me at a broken construct of the multiverse. Also interdimensional travel, etc., but because there is a leak, or there's a leak to the real world. That's why we have visions of the future, and that's why some of us remember our past lives, or can even, you know, actively experience them if we go into hypnotic states, because the fabric of what we like to call space-time in this particular multiverse is imperfect and broken. So it allows for things to seep through, if you will, especially, in my opinion, in times of stress and great need, or for people that have a very evolved spiritual understanding as well, I think, because they can transcend the illusion of the space-time continuum that we're in. That's just what I think. I could be wrong. The pineal gland and vibration. The activated pineal gland can also influence our experience through vibration. As we saw earlier with the heart, rhythmic vibrations can have a powerful effect on our cognition, emotions, and physical state. We know this intuitively, and we experience it directly when we sense the effects that music has on our mood. Because music is vibration, right? Everything you hear, right? There's no magic. It's a vibration. There's a little little drum-like thing in your head, and the air vibrates against it, right? And that's what you hear. So music has an amazing effect on mood, memory, and physiology. In the early 1980s, in fact, music can really uplift you, Dave. It can really uplift you. It can also make you sad. You hear pieces of music, you might cry. Some other music inspires you to physically move, to make you dance. Other music is very evocative and touches you on, I don't know, especially marching music, you know, for to feel, I guess, nationalistic and proud of your army, and you want to go marching with them because it's such an uplifting tune. So you're marching to your death, but that's okay because you love the music so much. So it's really fascinating to see just the powerful effect that these vibrations, that's all they have on us. In the early 1980s, the French musician Fabien Maman researched the effect of sound vibrations on cells. He found that sounds can destroy cancer cells and invigorate healthy ones. Today, it is common for parents to play classical music to stimulate brain development for their children before and after birth. We did that. I'm sure a lot of people do it, right? It's just what people do these days. A rhythm entrainment, also called resonance, happens when two waveforms begin to oscillate together at exactly the same rate. When the hypothalamus and pituitary entrain with the pulsing vibration of the pineal gland, our whole system can shift toward harmony. Taoists believe that the North Star is the source of the original pulse. Vibrations from this star were crucial in the evolution of the first forms of life on Earth. It is said that Earth's ability to support life is related to the planet's tilt toward the North Star, rather than being oriented directly toward the Sun. This orientation maximizes the habitable surface and optimizes the environment for plant and animal life. And this is interesting. Because of the North Star's strong power and influence, many Qigong exercises intentionally connect with the North Star. According to Taoists, the North Star emits pulsing vibrations which affect and activate the pineal gland. When the pineal gland pulses in synchrony with the North Star, it receives cosmic information and relays it to the hypothalamus and pituitary through resonance. In turn, they send messages to the heart, which communicates with the rest of the body through its own electromagnetic pulsing. Now, who are the people that are most prosecuted, or among the most prosecuted in China right now? Qigong practitioners. Why are they such a threat to China? Because of this ancient knowledge. Because of the secret knowledge they still harbor. And that's a massive, not just to the Chinese, but the Chinese have the means and I guess the lack of international interest to go ahead and prosecute them as hard as they can, because any system today that is autocratic in nature, it was definitely set up by the parasites, I can tell you that. And they have no interest in our continued spiritual evolution. So that's what happens there. Dave?
Magnetic fields and the pineal gland. Besides being sensitive to light and vibration, the pineal gland activates in part due to exposure to magnetic fields. Studies with birds and other animals conclude that the pineal gland monitors magnetic fields and assists the body in orientating in space by acting as a navigational center. The magnetoreceptive capacity also explains why geomagnetic storms and environmental stress can affect the pineal gland, leading to problems with circadian rhythms and melatonin secretion. Welcome to my life. As we discussed earlier, the heart generates a strong electromagnetic field that permeates the whole body. When the heart is activated with the high frequencies of love and compassion, its electromagnetic field is amplified and expanded. The pineal gland's sensitivity to electromagnetic energy causes it to begin vibrating and activating in concert with the heart. As these two organs entrain together, their high vibration opens the third eye to greater inspiration, intuition, and inner vision. Because of the pineal gland's connection with spatial orientation and circadian rhythms, our perception of space and time often shifts when the pineal gland is in a highly aroused state. Such experiences have been mentioned by meditators and Qi Kung practitioners for millennia, and research is now providing explanation for these phenomena.
It's fascinating stuff. That really, it's powerful. It really is, and we know. Okay, the two things we know for a fact, right? One, we know that people that practice meditation on a regular basis from an early age have fundamentally different brain chemistry to the rest of us. We know this, right? And because of that, these people can do things that you and I probably can't do, right? They can control their body in ways that we cannot, and potentially the world around them as well. And that's why they are so dangerous, and that's why these practices are so prosecuted in countries where they can be prosecuted. Right, like China, for example, or North Korea, places like that where there really isn't any human rights oversight, etc., etc. It's just what it is, right? In other countries, the practices have a hard time staying pure because there are too many other distractions, right? I mean, and you look at our Western culture, the near food experience we have, the constant bombardment with media and consumerism, etc. They don't help you grow spiritually either, So China might take the autocratic hard line of physical control. The West is taking the line of, I'm going to distract you with so many things you don't even want to do it. And that's where we are pretty much are. Which brings us to the Crystal Palace. You might have heard this term Crystal Palace before, if you are at all interested in these matters. And we're going to talk about the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the pineal. In Taoist practices, the region of the brain bounded by the pineal, the pituitary and hypothalamus glands is called the Crystal Palace. The Crystal Palace sits between the left and right hemispheres of the brain and between the forebrain of reason and the hindbrain of instinct. Many meditation practices mention the Crystal Palace, but some people have difficulty sensing it because these structures are inside the skull and cannot be touched directly. However, with a little practice, it is simple to connect with and activate these spiritual glands through our awareness and intention. The location of the pineal gland is often described as the center of the head. It is at the level of the eyebrows, above and behind the pituitary and hypothalamus. Behind the eyes, the optic nerves cross at the optic chiasm. Below the optic chiasm is the pituitary gland, which sits in the sella turcica of the sphenoid. Above and behind the optical chiasm is the hypothalamus. And this is really, actually, I can't talk about it at all. Sorry. There was some.
I'd like to tell you.
But there were some techniques taught to me. Oh, not me, but us specifically during a specific and special and fairly sacred and secret ceremony that I can't talk about. But I can tell you that it is aimed at this. There you go.
That's good.
That's all I have.
Oh, right. Okay, so the pineal gland and its relationship with light?
That's the one.
Yeah, excellent. All three glands of the Crystal Palace are extremely sensitive and responsive to light. Prior to 2002, science was aware of two forms of light receptors in the eye, cones for color vision and rods for low light vision. In 2002, however, scientists discovered a third photoreceptor, and these are the cells in the retina that contain a light-sensitive pigment called melanopsin. These cells send messages to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN, of the hypothalamus. The SCN is responsible for controlling circadian rhythms, which influence our sleep, alertness, hormones, temperature, and digestive functions. When the hypothalamus receives information about the presence or absence of light, it signals the pineal gland to activate and to start or inhibit cortisol and melatonin production. Variation in the melatonin levels causes a cascade of changes in the SCN, pituitary, and retina. The pituitary also responds to light through its release of vasopressin, which influences the SCN to adjust our circadian clock. In addition to the light detected by our eyes, studies now show that the whole body acts as a light receptor. Light shining on any part of the body can be detected, signaling the SCN and pineal gland to shut down melatonin production. Because there is so much ambient light these days, our systems rarely receive the deep relaxation that occurs in total darkness. Many people find that removing light sources from the bedroom can help in optimizing sleep cycles, improving general health, and powerfully stimulating pineal gland activation and rebalancing.
And you need to know that a lot of the mystery schools, ancient times as well as modern times, require you to spend some time in complete and utter darkness, right? So that's just a requirement. And interestingly enough, they have these sensory deprivation chambers, right?
Yeah.
And I've never been in one. I would love to go on one, but apparently once you're in this, it's like a tank with salt water and you float. So essentially,
Mm-hmm.
you're not aware of your body, and it's like sort of like being in space in a way, I guess. Because gravity is, well, not gone, it sort of cancels out, and also it's completely soundproof and it's pitch black.
And because it's
Right?
water, you don't have any sensation if you don't move.
Correct. And especially if it's because the water is also the body temperature, so it's
Mm-hmm.
it's not cold or hot, it's just body temperature. And so, and in there, people have described having visions and almost like sort of out of body experiences and all manner of interesting things, because you've canceled out all the noise,
Yeah.
because we are surrounded. If I mean, when was
By
the last
inputs.
time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by inputs all the time. When was the last time you truly and utterly were alone and quiet in fact in a quiet place where there was no distraction, no noise, no interference with your thoughts or your ability to connect with yourself? When was the last time you could do that? A lot of us never experienced that, ever. And if you do try to experience it, actively, you have a hard time achieving it unless you build one of those, chambers. And in fact, again, in ancient times, they did build chambers like this and still do for this specific purpose. It is really it is quite amazing what you can experience in there. I haven't done it, but I've heard stories. I'd love to do it one day, though. Now, okay, this is interesting. No, I don't think we'll get through that. No, we're definitely going to. Okay, so the next bit concerns itself with the actual activation of the pineal gland. So the things that you can do, right? The Qigong practices for activating the pineal gland and harmonizing the crystal palace. That's the next bit of information that we have for you. I can give you a brief preview. It's breathing, tapping, toning, pressing, squeezing, etc., etc. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can actually do. We will share that with you next week. But Dave, in your life's journey, right?
Yeah.
How many times were you able to be completely still and mindful and not, I guess, distracted by outside inputs?
Yeah. It's probably on. I can count them on both hands. So in 56 years, probably 10 or 8,
Yeah.
9. Not very many. And I realized when I'd found it, what I was experiencing. I really did. That's when I realized what I was experiencing, because it's so vivid. Now I do myself practice not thinking anything at all, so that I keep my mind clear of thought.
Mm-hmm.
And like, actually, if whoever knows me personally would understand that's an extreme challenge. But I've learnt over probably 40 years of how to do it best for me. And it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but it's something that I've tried to teach my kids. And that if you can sit perfectly still somewhere comfortably where you don't feel yourself at all, just being in the room as a being, and attempting not to think anything is a difficult task. And if you can try to get to, like, set a timer for 2 minutes, it doesn't sound like much of a challenge, but you're not allowed to think of anything. You can't think, oh, I wonder how long it's been. If you can get to 2 minutes, try 3, then 5, 10. If you can do it for 20 minutes, just being not asleep, but just being there, like you're listening, motionless, standing in a forest, of only hearing, with your eyes closed. Very similar in a room with no noise and there's nothing around you. Try to do the same thing and quiet your mind. You could say I've got Vulcan ancestry, but it's something, if you can practice keeping your mind quiet, I think that you become a more controlled individual and you're able to deal with things better. And it also, as an example, it allows you to hear what others can't hear. And I don't mean audibly. So if you're open to feeling larger than your body outside as a perimeter around you to a greater extent, then you start to be able to read more in. I think we've all got the skill to do something similar, but in the world that we live in the high pressure world of multinational companies and doing things and having deadlines and a discussion every 5 minutes about something, it's very difficult to find the time to do this for yourself. But when you find that you've achieved it for just a little while, it's kind of like submerging yourself beneath the water in a pool, and just for a few seconds before you've touched the bottom or risen up and you're floating there as just a being, then you've kind of got there. So it's very difficult. I just honestly, message me, DM me, and let me know how you've gone.
Yeah, no, yeah. Look again. It'd be nice to maybe do this as an organized thing, like the Aboriginals did, or trying to do something when they held their 2020, like a ceremony.
Yes.
It'd be nice to get everybody together and see what the effect might be if there maybe thousands or even hundreds of thousands of us were doing something like that at the same time. A nice experiment. There's one thing of breaking news I want to share with you. I mean, unless you've breaking news, it's very mundane. But I'm bring the conversation back to this multi. So yeah, he was just he was just deported, or he's gone. He's not going to play in the Australian Open now, just in case you were interested. And that's just what it is. So I guess that's going to have repercussions going forward as well. We're going to see what that looks like. But yeah, try to be mindful, as Dave has outlined, and contact Dave or myself if you want to have a chat about it. Then, of course, many practitioners out there that are much more advanced than I am, or I don't know. Dave's probably a pretty good practitioner, but it is definitely worthwhile to be in the moment. It is definitely worthwhile to shut down, to get that you time, where you just you cancel out all the noise, just with yourself and your thoughts. It's actually a lot scarier than it sounds. And then just find yourself in a way. And it probably sounds very wishy-washy, but we don't spend enough time in our heads in a good way. Don't worry about the past. Don't fret about the future. Try to be in the moment and live it. Don't be that person at the event even that has to see it through their smartphone. Just watch, be in that event, whatever it might be, or find that place in the forest, in the mountains, I don't know, your cellar, wherever, where you can be by yourself and just be and be still, be quiet.
It's really not easy in this world of distractions.
No, it's hard.
And I've got a forest out my back door.
Yeah.
And that's why I know, because I've stood there in the forest just listening, and attempting to just be me in the forest. I know it sounds so esoteric when I say it out loud, but if you're at all interested, you'll know what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. My grandfather, he was meant to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? Went to grammar school back in the early 20th century. That's what you did. But he said, "Nah, I don't want it. I want to be a forester." So after his studies, he signed himself up for forestry studies, right? And the test he undertook after his studies were finished was a whole week. There's a week's worth of an exam, if you will, right? Where you have to do, whatever you have to do, which was intense. However, he loved the forest so much that, he did that. And his life then was spent in the forest pretty much by himself, with his dogs or his dog, being in the forest, being, by himself for the most part. Coming home for lunch, coming home for dinner, but for many hours of the day, he would be in the forest by himself. And he was a very clear thinker. He was a very I've taken a lot of cues from him in my life, and and I really I can appreciate and understand his life choices. Right, that's what he wanted for himself. He wanted to have that ability to be in the forest by himself. And that's the music, Dave.
It sure is. This has been David Mackey's Shiny Side Out, second hour, episode 513. Stay tuned for Jer Bearer's awesome show, After Hours. And you know what? We'll catch you next week.